Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. An absolute pleasure to be able to speak to you both. How are you today? Okay.
Well, thanks.
Great, thanks. Nice to see you.
Nice to speak to you. I mean, I was a huge fan of Call Me by Your Agent, but for the uninitiated who might not have seen that series or know anything about it, can you give us a bit of a taste of what 10% is all about?
Yeah, it's a show that's set in a boutique agency in London, and it follows the kind of fortunes of agents as they represent their actors and kind of navigate the shallow waters of their own lives in London and in Soho.
A comedy.
A comedy.
People
by John Morton.
Coping through humour.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Were you big fans of the French series? And what was the appeal for you for coming on board for a UK version? And did you feel any pressure, I guess, kind of doing some kind of remake? Or was it just something that was just going to be so much fun to do? It didn't bother you?
Yes, big fans of the French series. I think we all were, weren't we?
Yeah.
I hadn't seen all of it, and I sort of stopped watching it as soon as this became a reality, just because you have to make it your own. But yes, I think we all felt a lot of pressure, but yeah, I felt a lot of pressure because adored the French show so much and had very much had Camille Cottin on a pedestal in my mind as well. So terrified really. But once we got on set, and John Morton's script is so different, and it's a wonderful and privilege and quite joyful start to our series that it's sprung from that brilliant French show. But it's quite quickly totally lived in its own right, didn't it? Like episode 1 is very, very similar, and then
and John's voice is so specific, and he's really authored the world of it to be quite a kind of bespoke and interesting and unique take on the format, I guess, that the French show has kind of outlined. So I guess the French show wasn't really in our minds as we were making ours, but of course it's a massive part of the genesis of this. We adore it. We kind of adore them. They're the most wonderful actors, and so
we wouldn't exist without it.
Exactly. I mean, existentially we would exist, but just in this.
And your two characters, are so sort of kind of pivotal in the show, and you have some of really exciting storylines. So what was the appeal specifically to play Dan and Rebecca, and kind of how do you see your characters?
You sometimes don't get a lot of material when you audition for things for various reasons. You sometimes get 2 pages, and most of the time you can't really tell much about who someone is from those 2 pages, because they give you a big chunk, and usually it's a bit of text where they're really just describing something that anyone could be saying. But with this, you could immediately tell who they were, and I could immediately tell that he was someone who was always paddling quite fast. He was trying to do the right thing, apparently never quite on top of things, but kind of emotionally usually kind of aware of what's going on. And all of that, you could sort of tell with John's scripts quite quickly what someone's like. So I was immediately like, yes, I like this person. I'm interested in him not being a kind of fire-breathing agent. There was a kind of complexity to him within that world that I was into.
And the chemistry between, they're very good mates, Rebecca and Dan, but polar opposites sort of character-wise. But we actually auditioned together during lockdown on Zoom, which is
really fun.
Quite a strange experience, because also John's writing is so kind of bang, 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 very fast, picking up cues. And because there's always this delay on Zoom.
And Lydia's broadband is really bad. It's really bad.
That was just my accent.
Yeah. We're like, Lydia, get off that dial-up. Lydia's like, no, I'm just acting slowly. Yeah.
So there's this very painful delay, which is quite difficult to kind of get around when you're trying to be, trying to be funny, or
plus trying to sort of hold on to the lines in an audition setting. So but we'd actually we knew each other a little bit before from the world of Planet acting. So it was nice to see a friendly face on that audition anyway, because Zoom auditions can be quite weird and isolated. So that was good.
And one of the things that we often feel is very specific to different cultures is humour. But I love the fact that this brings such a British humour, a British sensibility to the kind of characters and the storyline, and also to tackle quite kind of thorny issues sometimes. I mean, there's glimpses of the pressures women are on in kind of the TV and film industry, about diversity, and there's a lot of kind of humanity as well in a lot of the storylines. So was that also an appeal for you both?
Yeah, John.
No, go for it.
Well, just no, that's great that you felt that, because absolutely the heart at the center of the show is so important, particularly like the Simon Gould character, and it's not sending up actors or taking, even though sometimes actors can be, we're slightly neurotic show ponies, but we're not actually. It's too easy. It's a bit of a lobe. I can speak for myself.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's lots of perfectly normal actors.
Yeah.
No, so it's nice not to be in a show that's taking the piss out of actors, or it's got heart, but the vulnerabilities going into that job, and I
think like one of the things about being an actor is it's your actual body that you work with. And so all of the things that you're battling in your own life as you move through the world, as you move through your own years and decades, start to hit you in different ways as you navigate the business. And that's actually that's a real thing. It's like it's a challenging thing to get through. People don't want to talk about it. And it is it can be the subject of, like Lyd says, a little bit of kind of send up. And while the show is incredibly funny and busy, it's not afraid to just kind of put those brakes on and to see behind those curtains, because they are really important. The challenges that Kelly faces in her episode, for example, are really specific and different to the challenges that all of the other guest cameos face, but all of them have a kind of basis in reality. So
And it just looks like it was so much fun to make. Kind of you mentioning, hard to do on Zoom, but I guess on set, that sort of quick fire repartee between all the characters, and then doing this kind of meta thing where like cameos, actors are coming on and kind of playing themselves. So what were some of the highlights and maybe some of the challenges of the shoot of the series?
Do you want to go highlights and I'll go challenges? Oh, COVID is the big one.
Yeah,
it's incredibly hard to make television and film programs in a pandemic for obvious reasons, and so there was a lot of challenges around testing and isolating at a kind of period of time that was like kind of just coming out of, but still in the middle of the pandemic. Most productions felt that, I think. So those things are always tough, like how do you kind of stay on top of the schedule? And with this kind of material, because it, like Lyd says, because it moves so fast and because you have to really be on top of it, if a scene gets pulled forward from 2 weeks' time to tomorrow, you're kind of really up against it to get on top of it. If so there was that was always in play. Plus, of course, the kind of broader health and safety things. So yeah.
And to that, the scheduling, which was fun, as you said, the brilliant roster of very well-known, talented actors who come as our guests every week, was the energy that they all brought, with quite a huge dollop of trust to come and play themselves in a show like this, but which made it quite fun, but obviously probably incredibly complicated for Rachel Freck, who cast it so brilliantly, because the schedules were changing, as they always do anyway, and as our talent probably were as well, but also with COVID. So we didn't know who was going to be each guest until quite close to the wire, but that was one of the highlights, I'd say, because it was quite fun. We'd have a lot of chats offset about, who we'd just like to cast, and whenever they were cast, it was always just sort of spot on.
Yeah, they always felt completely perfect for it. But Rachel Freck, who cast the show, definitely said there were actors who were interested in doing it who just couldn't, because they couldn't fly here or for whatever reason. So we've ended up with incredible cameo players who were really prepared to kind of, again, not send themselves up, but have fun with it and like dig deep, and in some cases dig really quite deep, and expose a side of them and their processes or their lives that really are a kind of look behind the curtain.
And actors, just carry on.
Okay.
Actors who would normally always be the protagonists or the main focus of any production they're in, who such generosity to come and, because the show is about looking behind the curtain and the lives of the agents, you know, an area of the industry that I think people are probably quite interested in, because it's this sort of kind of not secret, but hidden part of a very front-facing industry. So that generosity of them coming in, you know, playing the supporting roles really to the lives of the agents was just very, very generous of them.
Yeah.
So generous quite a few times there.
Well, I think
they were generous.
Very generous.
I think I'm out of time, but it's been such a pleasure to speak to you both, and I can't wait for everyone else to see 10%. So
thanks very much. Cheers. Thanks, Emil.
Have a chat to you. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.